Hello and welcome to the Bubb Report. Last week, Grenada was rocked by the gruesome murder of Lindy Skinner Moraine, a few miles outside of the capital in the community of Jean Anglias. The murder accused allegedly stabbed the victim around 33 times in the presence of her teenage daughter, herself a victim of his unrelenting violence.
Lindy Skinner Moraine, a food vendor of Jean Anglias, St. George's, has died. Accused of her death is Calvin Frank, a 33-year-old of Bailey's Back Village in St. David's. Our early investigation revealed that the accused has made a report to the South St. George police station prior to the incident this morning.
Data published through Caribbean Woman Count, the Ending Violence Against Women and Girls data hub, found that 1 in every 3 women in Grenada has or will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime. The first comprehensive national survey on gender-based violence in Grenada revealed that 29% of all women experience at least one form of violence, in line with the global average that 1 in 3 women will experience physical and other sexual violence during their lifetime. Today on the report, we discuss the state of gender-based violence in Grenada and the measures that are being taken to mitigate its negative consequences across both genders. Also on the report, we sit down with Grenada's leader of the opposition to discuss the state of his senatorial bench in the upper house of parliament, as well as to discuss other issues relevant to the national community. We welcome our guest, author pair, volunteer with the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic, Elaine Henry McQueen of the Grenada Spotlight Initiative, the Honorable Tobias Clement, leader of the opposition, Ashida Charles, social and political activist, and therapist Shauna Coffey. It's the week of April 13th, 2021. We take this time to welcome you to the Bubb Report. A pleasant good morning, good afternoon, good night, good evening, wherever you are viewing the Bubb Report and whatever time you're choosing to view the Bubb Report this week. Let me thank you again for joining us for another episode, another installment of the show. And at this time, I want to take the opportunity to congratulate all of the Grenadian students who graduated with honors and who crossed the stage virtually at the St. George's University graduation yesterday. I want to especially take this opportunity to thank a very good friend of mine, Gabriella Grant, who also completed her master's degree. Certainly, the world is your oyster, and we hope that you can contribute to the development of Grenada, especially during this critical time. And at this time, I wish to welcome my first guest, the leader of Her Majesty's opposition in Grenada, the Honorable Tobias Clement. Honorable Clement, again, as usual, thank you for always making yourself available to the Bubb Report. There has been recent developments with respect to the composition of your senatorial bench. There has been one resignation by someone who you recently appointed, and you have some news with respect to a new appointment. So can you give us an update as to what that is looking like, sir?
Well, thank you very much again, Kellon, for having me. As always, I will never refuse an invitation. And like you say, you come in the spirit of investigative journalism. And
yes.
Let me say hello to all our listeners on social media, whether in Grenada, in the diaspora, wherever you are. This is Grenada, but Mr. Bob, as you said, the 13th week of April, but this is the 13th day of June going into day in June, right, and not April. But yes, you said it right that last year, I just about maybe 10, 11 months ago, I had asked Mr. Terry Noel to serve in the Senate in the role as an opposition senator. And he subsequently, last month, tendered his resignation. Well, indeed, we moved quickly, and we have thus far submitted the name of Miss Rolanda McQueen, Miss Rolanda Shirley McQueen, to serve in the Senate. She has been given the opportunity, and she accepted to serve our country.
Yeah, Mr. Clement, what was the rationale behind that particular pick, that particular individual to serve in the Senate?
Well, the truth about it, I do believe that in Grenada now, we have a lot of Grenadian sovereigns who are willing to serve. And I did do a few interviews and investigations, and I spoke to quite a number of people with the intention of they wanting to serve in the Senate. And I do believe Ms. McQueen has been an activist for justice and for the development of Grenada. And I do believe that after sitting with her for some time, I do believe that at this point in time, I do believe that she would do a great job in terms of representing Grenada, in terms of representing the people of Grenada, in terms of being part of the government structure that is to serve in the Senate, in the upper house.
So you just said, let me press you here. You said you interviewed other individuals for that role. Can you give us a sense of who those persons were and why you felt
Well,
that they're left wanting, Mr. Clement?
I would keep it very private at this time in terms of who expressed interest and who came forward and who I think it is if they want to disclose, they will disclose, but I would not disclose other names that came up. I think
Mhm.
it was done privately, and I think I would respect that.
Okay. All right. Now, on to the resignation of the previous senator. Would you say that you were taken aback by his resignation? Were you expecting his resignation, Mr. Clement?
No, I wasn't expecting his resignation because, I mean, when you serve in the Senate, you serve the government and people of Grenada. After all, Parliament, where you have both the lower house and the upper house, that is in service of the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. When one is asked to serve in the Senate, it is not to serve an individual, it is not to serve a party, but it is in service of country. So I think it's a high office, it's an honor. It is a noble institution, and to serve in such an institution, one must be, I mean, elevated or lifted up because you're called to serve the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique.
Hmm. And now, what's going to happen? I mean, right now, the government is in the midterms, if you will. We have perhaps another 2 years before elections are constitutionally due. What is going to happen with you, Mr. Clement, with respect to your own political future? Are you going to? Are you going to? Would this be the end of? Would this be the end of the line with respect to your political future as we face another elections, Mr.
Well,
Clement? You're not part of any
Mr.
political
Bob,
party.
I'm a pretty
Yes.
young man. I should think by any standard now. And I do not believe so. I mean, one can never say the future, but at this point in time, I believe it is my duty to bring everybody together so that we can work together for the development of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And I think that is my objective. Whether or not I am elected again to serve in whatever capacity, but as long as called upon to serve the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, I will continue to do so.
Mr. Clement, I think what I'm asking, I'm just trying to get a sense of what your political strategy is. Are
Well,
you going to be contesting? Let me finish, please. Are you going to be contesting the seat of St. George's Northeast as an independent candidate, or are you going to be aligned with one of the two political parties that are organizing for the upcoming elections in Grenada? You know that party politics is what has the organizational mechanism for of competitive elections. Surely.
well, you would look at it this way, and I would look at it this way. The two main political parties in Grenada are NNP and NDC. Um, and well, you have some fringe outside of that. And I'm in Parliament in the lower house, and today I have we have the other three senators with me, and I do believe what is going to happen as leader of Her Majesty's opposition. I will have to call on all opposition forces to unite and come together for the good and for the benefit of our country. One, as an independent candidate, I have never seen an independent candidate in Grenada political history making any inroads. The closest that came was in 1995, Elvin G. Nimrod. May God have mercy on his soul. But then after that, now, I mean, take back from the 1970s, where you had the juggernaut, the GOLP, and still, when you had unity there, it was very difficult to defeat Gary. But in order to make any dent in the future political landscape of Grenada, myself, whosoever else is out there, must come together. I do not know
So,
under what
so
umbrella or how it, but we must come together to bring it together, to gel it together, so that if we have division in the opposition, the chances will be very narrow.
so what opportunities are you going to be? I'm sorry. What are you going to be doing to ensure that you can be part of that solution of coming together?
What the truth about it, I have done in my young lifetime already three elections, one in 95 in Carriacou and two recently in 2013 and 2018. And if I do have the know-how, because sometimes there are a lot of us who come and say, let us go to fight. But if you were never in a fight before, you would not have the experience and you would not know what it is like there. So I am willing and I believe I am able to help bring that organization together, that machinery together, so that we can have a successful campaign in another election in Grenada.
Well, Mr. Clement, I will be following up with you on that commitment you're making here on the Bubb Report today. I really would want to see what you're going to be doing with respect to getting together with persons like Miss Ashida Charles, who we have here, and the
I,
National Democratic Congress and the Grenada Movement, who, by the way, your previous appointed senator, he's resigned to join the nascent Grenada Movement. So
well,
I would be
the
very
truth,
interested to see what that would
well,
look like on your end.
and this is what it is. I mean, yes, you can say that, but then some people would ask as to what end was a move like that made. Because, for instance, the senators that serve in the Senate, I have never given them any ultimatum. I have never given them any mandate. I'm not aligned with any political party. I never say that if you're a member of the NNP or the NDC or this one or that one, you cannot be in the Senate. So this is why, to me, when it happened, I was like, I mean, you must be shocked, bewildered, surprised as to why would you do something. I mean, here you are in the Parliament of Grenada, so you leave the Parliament, in other words, to come out to work, to go back into the Parliament in some capacity. So, but that said, we are moving forward, and Grenada must move forward. And there is a part in the scripture which says, even if the stones have to be risen, the stones will rise up. But again, Mr. Bob, you would remember when Mr. Grant was here, the last conversation that he had with me, the last Sunday, we spoke about unification. and unity going forward. And sometimes I always think back on that day that that is what he saw. In order for us to move forward with any power, with any reason, with any magnitude that will affect change, there must be unity. There is no if, ands, or but about it. I mean, some people may have the ego as to they want to form this and they want to do this and they want to lead this and they want to lead that. But if there is no unity, then and we decide to go a different road, maybe I would not be part of it. I would not be a part of an election cycle where we have 3, 4 political parties in the melee.
But
That
that,
is
but
just
that is,
showing
but that is,
victory.
but that is the current reality on the ground in Grenada.
But
We have
that
the
is
Grenada movement. We have the National Democratic Congress.
reality
We have the
change.
GULP.
They say a week in politics is a long time, and a long time can change. Who would ever think that maybe this week is Benjamin Netanyahu's last week? When you have the Arabs joining with the Jews in order to get change, what can be worse than that? So I have hope. I have hope that change is gonna come.
Okay. All right, Mr. Clement.
But
Finally,
before you
yes, go
say
ahead.
finally, there is
Yes.
something else that I want to raise, and that maybe would segue into your next segment with your guest. Friday night, I went to a wake in New Hampshire. That is for the young man who died while in police custody on Friday. And everyone that I met at that wake, I mean the entire family, everybody is calling on for the government to have an independent investigation into the surrounding of that young man's death and the circumstances, the suspicious. I mean, I say let an independent autopsy be done. And so if the police, they have to be vindicated, let them be vindicated. But as for now, there is a big cloud of suspicion over the death of that young man while in police custody at Central Police Station. And the issue was raised loud and clear with me at the wake Friday night. I think it is so troubling.
So you're calling for there to be an independent investigation. Is the suggestion that they're not satisfied
They
with
are
the?
not satisfied. I mean, everybody is thinking that there might be foul play. I am not pointing any fingers at the police, but overall, the overwhelming, I mean, everybody is saying that they do not believe the story that was given. And I think something must be done about that. This is
Mhm.
not the first time this is happening in Grenada. It's not the first time it is happening in the world. Unfortunately, we did not have any video footage or any cameras. So
Mhm.
where video footages and cameras are, it changes the whole dialogue. So in
Mhm.
this case, where we do not have no evidence of video, then an independent investigation must be done, because I think it is said that the commissioner said that the police will do a full and thorough investigation. Well, the police investigating themselves, that would be a laugh, right? So I think it is an issue that must be raised. Maybe you will raise it again in your discussion, even in general, police brutality, not just in the United States, but even here in Grenada too, can be addressed. Because look, we had an incident just last week where a police was charged because he arrested a security guard for asking him to wear a mask and went with him. And then because of public outcry, it flipped, embarrassing again the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Mhm. And DJ
I
Azad,
tell you,
Daisy Azad
Kellan,
is saying, yeah, Daisy Azad
we're
is saying
living in
an
some serious
independent,
times.
yeah, Daisy Azad is saying an independent investigation needs to be carried out into the death, the alleged beating of the young man and woman. I stand with the RGPF 100%, but there is a question of trust when the police investigates the police. I mean, we've seen this with the Oscar Bartholomew case as well, right?
That's right. That's
And
right.
the length of time that the coroner's inquest took
Right.
for them to come up with sort of a credible report, if you will. So let's get to some other comments. Somebody saying Mr. Tobias is making a lot of sense this morning. Jose is saying, when will Mr. Clement come to reality? I think that's concerning your previous call for unity. Wilbur Thomas is asking, so what umbrella is he going under? Lydia James is saying, everybody wants to be prime minister. So that is a hard one, Toby. Yeah, you care to respond or react to any of the comments?
And that is the reality of the situation where someone says what reality is there, and this is a hard one. But
Mhm.
everything that is worth fighting for is always difficult. But what about the possibilities? If there is 1% chance, I will go for that 1% chance, because in our world, Kellon, you would know that there's sometimes change come when we never expected or from where we never expected it. And in terms of politics, everybody is looking for maybe the one kind of almost dictatorial stuff. But when you go to most governments that make sense, whether you go to Israel or you go to Germany or you go to a lot of this country, you always have this coalition coming together, because that is what politics is about. It's about coming together and forming a coalition so that we can settle down. Because I think there is this saying that goes that a peace can be negotiated, but unity must be forged. So it would not just happen overnight, but with forging, with people coming together and sitting down and having a common purpose, then it is possible. It was done before in 1976, I believe, when Bishop and all the others came together. It was difficult, but now it happened. I see we have almost a change in government in Israel, where nobody expected the Arab party to join with some of the Jewish party, but it has happened. And in Germany again, the coalition is there. Angela Merkel was there for years under the coalition. So, what are we saying? Grenada do not have possibility?
Well,
If
Mr.
we
Well,
seriously,
no, Mr. Clement, the reality in Grenada is that the reality of coalition politics in Grenada is such that the last coalition to have been formed was routed at the polls in 1999 between the Grenada United Labour Party and the National Democratic Congress by the NNP.
well,
They were routed. They were soundly defeated in that election. So,
when you think about it, it worked in Grenada before, because NNP in 1984-85, that was a coalition, when Brizan, Francis Alexit, Hubert Blaze, all of them came together. And it was for that one purpose.
but they were
Because
under
with
one umbrella of the New National
no
Party.
party, well, but
Yes.
they were splinters political party that came together, if you remember, in Union Island.
Hmm.
To
I
go
do.
to the polls. And it was because they were looking and they did not want Soeg Machigeri to come back. So they had to come together. So it happened before. So it can happen again. And that is why I said I would have hope. It is, I think it's scandalous not to live with hope that for the common purpose of Grenada, the Grenadian people would refuse to come together. Because at the end of the day, that is what we are looking for. I mean, it doesn't matter where you're called to serve, but when you're called to serve the country, Grenada.
Okay. Mr. Clement, on that note, we have to get to the next segment quickly.
Thank you.
But again,
Thank
I
you very
thank you
much.
for giving us the opportunity and giving us the updates.
Well,
One of these days, we want to have all of your senators appear on the Bubb Report at some point.
whenever you're ready, but I'll just stay in the background and listen. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. All right, Honorable Clement, thank you, and you have a wonderful week, sir.
You're welcome. And to the rest of your panel too, thank you guys. Have a wonderful week.
Okay, that was the leader of the opposition in Grenada, the Honorable Tobias Clement. Folks, stand by. We will be taking a break and coming up with our panel shortly.
Gender-based violence is something, unfortunately, we see raising its head in Grenada. It's not something that's new, but it has been a matter of culture, sometimes acceptable. And so what we're finding now through public education and awareness is that we're finding more reports of gender-based violence. It's an issue that we're seeing across age categories, across cultures, race, creed, religions, all of those. It's not one subgrouping, but we're finding it throughout length and breadth, with financial status as well, significant throughout all.
And let me take this time to welcome the panel. I have Mr. Arthur Pear, who is appearing in his private capacity as a volunteer and as someone who works with male folk in Grenada. He is on assignment in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in helping that country to mitigate against the negative impacts of the La Soufrière volcanic eruption. So, Mr. Pear, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We have Ms. Ashida Charles, who is a very vocal and outspoken, apologetic. I call her an iconoclast, someone who speaks to the issues in Grenada, but someone who's also articulated issues with respect to gender-based violence, misogyny, and sexism in the country. We also have Ms. Shauna Cuffey, who is a counselor and psychologist who works within that space as well, and Ms. Elaine Henry McQueen. I believe the latter three folks, this is your first time appearing on the report, so I want to thank you. But we want to get into it immediately. I want you to, first of all, get your gut reaction to the incident that occurred in Jean Anglias between those two parties. Unfortunately, a young woman lost her life. So I just want you to get your gut reaction to that unfortunate incident. Ashida, I would begin with you. You need to unmute your mic there.
Thank you very much for having me, Dr. Bubb. I
Yes.
like the title, so I'm going to use it when I address you. And
Yes.
thank you for inviting me on this program. Also, special good. Is it still morning? Good morning to our listeners and viewers.
Yes.
My initial reaction when I found out of about the incident, I was immediately angry. I was angry because of the amount of times the victim was stabbed. I thought it was a serious overkill. And when I heard the reason behind, of course, it's an allegation because we are not privy to the actual facts. I thought it could not have been over $150. I thought it had to be some sort of passionate connection between the victim and the accused. So that was my initial reaction.
Mm-hmm. Ms. McQueen? We need you to unmute your mic. Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Bubb. Good morning to all
Yes.
of you who are listening and viewing. When I learned of that killing, my first thought was sadness. My first emotions was sadness, and then I became very reflective. I was saddened because it was happening. It had happened again.
Mm-hmm.
In Grenada, the majority of times that anytime a woman is killed, it is often by the hands of someone, a man, who she had some sort of relations with. Very rarely do we hear of any other way in which a woman is killed in Grenada. So it had happened again. And so I became very sad and also then became very reflective because in my case, I have been doing work in relation to ending gender-based violence for quite some time, as has some of the other persons on the panel. And so I began to reflect on what can be done. What should I do differently? What can we together as a country do more of or do differently so that there will not be another one? I became reflective also of the number of times that women are beaten and or raped or suffer other forms of intimate partner violence and gender-based violence in general. But they might not have been killed. And so, what can we do at that stage to prevent it from happening in the first place? But then, at that stage, before the woman is killed, do we wait until there is a murder to have an outcry? And so that's where my sadness and reflection were.
Yes, and Shauna, I'm going to bring you in. You counsel women who experience that kind of violence. Now, when we think about warning signs, warning signals, when these things happen, what conversations do you have with women in Grenada to sort of get them to get out of those situations? Shauna, you need to unmute your mic there. Yes. Shauna, yeah, there is a delay with
Okay,
you
well, good
there.
morning, everyone. I just did. I think I just did. Good morning.
Go ahead,
Yes.
go ahead. Yes.
What the conversation we have with them is we share with them the understanding of the of dominance. We look at power and control. We look at we share with them where they're at. So as they give their narrative and they share their story, we have the science behind it to let them look and see. Because domestic violence is a cycle, gender-based violence is a cycle. You have a dominant partner and you have a partner that's not dominant, right? And the one with the dominance is the one who has the power. And what we aim to do, we aim to empower, right, the woman who's generally not the dominant partner in understanding their worth, in understanding who they are, in understanding the healthy interactions in relationship, and drawing a parallel to help them to see that where they are is unhealthy so that they can make a speedy outroad, not an inroad, but a outroad. It starts with psychological awareness. So in sessions, we bring them up to that place where they are aware that this is not good. This is not for me. And in understanding what is not good and not for you, we bring them to a place too where they set life goals. Goals understanding what is great, what do I want, with what I desire, and if it doesn't, right, we give them the keys, we give them the tools, and of course the empowerment strategy to move on, to move out, and to get help.
Hmm. Okay, Mr. Pay, I'm going to bring you in here. Now, there is always, and I've said this to you guys before the show began, that it is what, whenever these incidents happen, well, there is the narrative in some quarters to blame the woman. Well, what did the woman do to cause that kind of violence on her? In the case of the incident in Jean Anglias, the allegation is that the woman owed the gentleman a sum of money, right? And so you hear these narratives on social media, well, she should have paid him his money and things like that, which to me is so problematic. But Mr. Pay, I know that with the man-to-man initiative, you've been working and volunteering with the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic to really have conversations going with our male folk in Grenada around just having sensitivity to the way that conversations happen and the way that we treat women in general. So can you talk about just the work that you've been doing along those lines and the extent to which you are receiving a receptive audience?
Right. First of all, let me say good morning to all. Good morning, Kalan. Thank you again for having me. Good morning to the panelists. I have been working with Legal Aid and Counseling and volunteering with Legal Aid and Counseling in the Man-to-Man program since 2007. And I've seen the various shades of domestic violence. Sad to say, there are a number of persons who would have caused the murder or caused the death by violence over the years. And when I heard of this one, again, it's really, really saddened me. And I was asking the question, is there or was there an avenue that this individual was conscious of, that he could have relied on to bring some sort of solution to the issue. And I personally don't believe it was over a situation of $150. I really and truly don't believe that. But what Man-to-Man seek to do, if I need to talk, I just need to talk about that for a little while. What Man-to-Man seek to do is really and truly look at the perpetrators of domestic violence. Now, the court actually gets involved, and they, instead of sending persons to prison, they give them an opportunity to be rehabilitated through the legal aid and counseling clinic. The name of the program is actually the Partnership for Peace, but it is affectionately called Man-to-Man. So they have 16 weeks of psychoeducational training where we try to change attitudes and perspectives as it relates to interpersonal relationship. Ms. Coffey talked about the power and control issue. That too is discussed. And generally what we say to persons that, one, you have responsibility for your emotions. Okay, you have a responsibility for your emotions, and you cannot, and two, you cannot control somebody else. So the only person that you can control is yourself. Okay, regardless of how somebody may react to you, whatever they may do, you have absolutely no control over that. And people and men need to understand that in terms of interpersonal relationship. And three, we teach them ways of, one, identifying when they are becoming angry and what steps they need to do to change the course, take a time out, change that course, come back to the conversation at a different time. Sadly, our society don't give much attention to the issue of relationships. And I mean, we have abuse on both ends. We have men who are being physically abused and emotionally abused. But by and large, the abuse and the perpetrators of abuse, domestic violence, are actually men. When we look at the upbringing or how men are socialized when they are growing up, we realize that, one, a number of our men folk are in single parent homes led by mothers or led by women. Two, they would tell you that they have seen or witnessed their father or a male figure within the family structure. They would tell you that they have witnessed that being perpetrated on their mother. And yet for all, we have not had enough avenues where men could, one, express the issues that they're undergoing, their emotional issues and psychological issues. We don't have maybe hotlines or groups where men can really sit down and talk about the issues that are affecting them as it relates to the interpersonal relationship. Mm-hmm. We find that a lot among women. Now, generally, men don't talk about how they feel. Men don't talk about what the problems that they're having with their significant other. They don't talk about their family business because of ego, because of pride, because they feel that my family business is mine. And even though I need help, I am not reaching out to anybody. I am supposed to be the man and the head of the household, and I'm supposed to be able to handle my thing. And all of that speaks of ego. And it also speaks of power and control. So there is need. I mean, during the sessions, when you sit down and you talk to men, I used to have seen men cry because of the psychological pressure that they are under, because of the emotional issues that they have. And they are clueless in terms of how they need to address it, in terms of how they need to speak to their significant other. Fundamentally, it is a situation of respect. It is a situation where both men and women need to respect each other within the relationship, on understanding that even though they are in a relationship, there is an issue of understand that there's an issue of individuality. Even though you are in a relationship, you are an individual, and you have to respect those boundaries. You have to be able to communicate effectively and understand some of the intricacies of your partner. Too often, and this is my final point, too often relationships are just based on sex and sexuality, and not necessarily based on trying to understand your partner and being able to communicate effectively with your partner and listen. I mean, listen is part of communication, but we realize too that a lot of times men don't listen.
I just want you to pick up on a point you made about you said that the abuse goes both ways.
Yes.
What data do you have to suggest, for example, that women are also perpetrators of that? Again, we're talking gender-based violence. It's not
Right.
necessarily skewed one way or the other. So I just want you to expand on that, please.
Sad to say. Men, for over the years of me dealing with man-to-man, men have indicated that they have been abused. All right? They have been slapped, they have been cuffed, they have been stabbed, but they do not report these things simply because of their ego. All right? There's one case in particular where this young man said, well, more than one case, where this young man said that he actually went and reported it to the police. And the police laughed at him. Okay, he laughed at him. He said, well, why you don't want to control your situation? Right? When we have those sort of feedback from persons who are supposed to be the enforcers of law and the upkeepers of law, and they are making those type of reports, it creates a problem. It creates a problem. There isn't a lot of data that I don't have data, but I am saying basically what are some of the reports that men would have mentioned in the sessions that I've conducted.
Right. So you have a sort of anecdotal. Ashida, I'm going to bring you back here. Now you've been very vocal about just the way that society treats women, the way that women are viewed, objectified. We have a comment here coming in from Leo Edwards who says they need to address the toxic masculinity that encourages men not to embrace and express their emotions, especially the soft emotions, or else they are weak, etc. But Ashida, I want to get to you. You have been critiqued a lot of the time for just your appearance, right? in a lot of your live videos. But can you talk about personal experiences that you probably had in your own community around that kind of gender-based violence?
Okay, sure. Before though, let me just address the comment that just came up on the screen because that's something I think we need to speak of. Now, men are generally taught or groomed to harbor their emotions, right? So what I think we need to do in that regard is to create a haven or a safe space, like Mr. Pear would have mentioned a while ago, to allow men different platforms so they can express themselves. Only yesterday, I was in a conversation with a young man. He has 2 kids, and the mother of the kids, she left him, right? And he was sharing with me, he said, poor us men. We go through so much on a regular basis, and people expect us to have broad backs and hardened hearts, you see? And I am saying to him, but how do men suffer? Because I wanted to get him speaking some more about what he's going through. And he was even reluctant to share his true feelings about the situation. So I'm saying we people in society, we need to be more open to allow men to tell us how they feel. Men go through heartbreaks as well. And so if we shut them out on the expectation that they are men and they should always man up to all and every situation, and they are left to harbor all the emotions, imagine this. After a certain time, those emotions will boil over and they will find ways to channel all the emotions, be it in a negative way or a positive way. And oftentimes we find they channel the emotions in a negative way, which often leads to fatalities, So that's very, very critical. And I try with my brother. I have a younger brother and he's as tough as nail. But sometimes when I read him and I see that he might just be having a stressful day or so, I reach out and I would say to him, I am here if you want to talk. I am all ears. And I said, you can even lay on my shoulder, because sometimes they just want to lay down on a shoulder, sometimes just to think or to cry. And we need to be that support for them so they can say, listen, she left me and I'm so heartbroken. I don't know what to do. And as his sister or you know, an aunt, another brother, you can help guide so that he does not have to harbor all those feelings that in turn would lash out to him probably attacking the woman, right? Who just may be responsible for his pain. So this soft label.
We lost Sheila there for a second. Miss
Right.
McQueen, and go ahead.
Right? We need to allow men
Yes.
to cry, allow men to be emotional as well. Should I proceed to answer the question you asked about
Yes, please proceed. Yes.
Okay, so my experience, which I've shared, you know, was I think the worst period of my life having to be in such a situation because there were no signs. He was a great guy who I had a relationship with for close to 5 years. And before the abuse started, you know, there was nothing to see. Nothing to see. It just came up. It started with a slap, like 2 slaps the first time, over me choosing to be away from him because I had to study, which he didn't like. Again, he didn't like the fact that I was in school getting a degree. He thought, I completed secondary school. I had a few CXC subjects. My next role was to really be a mother and a wife. And I wasn't prepared for that. And so that affected him to an extent. I can't say why he would have to speak to that. It started with 2 slaps, which because he was so good of a guy to me prior, I made all the excuses in the book as to why he hit me, and I forgave him for that. And then it happened again, a second time. And the third time was the last straw, because I honestly, within that space, I thought, like, if I didn't get away from him, he probably would have killed me. That is how fearful of a situation I was placed in. And if I'm quite honest, as strong of a person I thought I was, what he did to me crushed me, shattered me emotionally. And I, on my own strength and will, I couldn't get over it. So I needed help. And that help, if I'm brutally honest, I really couldn't go to friends for the help or family members, because in my head, I was scared that I would be ridiculed, or if I was to share it with my friends, they would go into conversations with their friends and Ashida would be labeled as the girl whose boyfriend beats her up. And so I reached out to a teacher at St. George's University. Her name is Dr. Sherlyn Williams, and she directed me to what I consider the best place ever, because that counselor, a male counselor, he counseled me back to that place where I got the feeling that I can do much better for myself. I am worth so much more. And so I had to be counseled out of it. And sometimes when I think of the situation, I say, but what if I didn't know Dr. Sherlyn Williams? Would I have stayed in the relationship? I really don't know.
And I see here Shauna is giving you thumbs up and clapping. Shauna, what Ashida seems to have resonated with you. I mean, you work with young women in those situations as well. Shauna, you need to unmute the mic.
Yes, I'm sorry, it's going in and out. I'm just listening to Ashida, and I applaud it because, in our society, counselors, psychotherapists, psychologists, we're the last people want to see. Because of the smallness of the society and the close proximity in which people live, people generally see that if I get help, everybody would know one. And if I also get help, it shows that I'm weak. Weak people do not come to counseling. It's the strong people who come for therapy. I want to establish that, okay? I don't think anybody's weak. I really don't. I think we all have been blessed with a fortitudinal resolve to move forward and to press past and to push forward, even in the most vile circumstances. And there are times when you have to drag one leg behind the other, and you get there. Now, our society, we need to understand the hand up mentality, not the handout, but the hand up mentality. And that hand up mentality is, if we see something, and we spot it to be negative, we may not be able to identify all the points, especially with a question with young girls. But we have to show that we care. And once we show that we care, that opens the door for some discussion. One of the things I want to inform the public on is that we have a responsibility to the responses we give. Our community response must be strong. We must be connected in our community. Church and school response. When people share that they've been beaten or hit, cuffed, kicked, slapped, even law enforcement response is key. How does our healthcare providers respond when we go with bruises and cuts and so? Do they have the responsibility to report? Because now we have a special victims unit. We have a lot of things in place where our responses can be captured and the responses can be taken seriously. But sadly, sometimes when it comes to gender based violence, many young girls, many older women, many women on a whole feel that I do not want to be made fun of, so I am not reporting. But I'm here to tell you that there are some serious psychological effects of gender based violence. Post traumatic stress disorder, you have the stigma, you also have severe anxiety. Many of the young girls and women have suicidal thoughts. They feel, listen, if he thinks I'm that bad and I'm feeling that badly about myself, it's best for me to end it. Some people have an abuse or misuse of substances. Okay? Then, lastly, the ultimate terrible one that we don't want anybody to encounter, death. And that's why the conversation is in place today about death, right? We do not want another sister, another friend, to die because they feel there is no one to go to.
And speaking of, and Miss Elena, I'm going to bring you back here, and we're going to go into Shauna sort of teed up what my next talking point here was going to be, and that has to do with the data from the National Study on Gender-Based Violence, the findings. I'm going to summarize some of the findings here, and I want you to I want the panel to react to it and comment on it. And it really shows the extent of where we are with respect to gender-based violence. And, I just think it really scratches the surface, I mean, to me, because, there is a tendency to think that a lot of these incidents are also not reported, right? So, Miss McQueen, I want you to get to react to this. Now, the report says that 1 in every 4 Grenadian women has suffered physical violence at some point in their life. Close to 1 in every 10 Grenadian women has experienced sexual violence over their lifetime. Emotional abuse is the most common form of interpersonal violence and is suffered by about 3 in every 10 Grenadian women. Amongst the 26.9% of Grenadian women who suffer lifetime physical violence from their intimate partner, for more than 2/3 of them, this violence is severe: hitting, kicking, burning, and threatening with a weapon. For many women, the abuse does not stop during pregnancy. Among ever pregnant women, 5.3% reported being beaten during at least one pregnancy, including in her stomach. Over their lifetime, almost 1 in every 4 Grenadian women will have experienced at least one form of non partner sexual violence, which includes acts of rape, 10.7%, attempted rape, 10.4%, and unwanted sexual touching, 15.5%. Ms. McQueen, this is very disturbing, very, very disturbing data.
It is very disturbing data. It is data that tells us that intimate partner violence and non-partner sexual violence are very, very prevalent in Grenada. These data are also, which speak to the numbers, the percentage and prevalence rates and so on. These data are also accompanied by some qualitative data that speaks to what happens, what's behind the numbers, right? Why is the violence happening? And what are the women and the men going through, and so on. And here are some additional information that we can see coming out of that report. One is that intimate partner violence is happening because of gender inequality. So that the experience of both the women and the men's questioned during the focus groups and so on indicated, for example, one woman said that he did it because he thinks a man could do anything and get away with it, and he had the right to do that to me. And a man in another focus group then also said, well, man is the head. What do you expect? He had to control sin. And the previous speakers spoke about that. So this notion of inequality, this notion that a woman belongs to a man, is something that we have to get rid of, totally get rid of, because it's at the core of all forms of gender-based violence. One person does not belong to another person. Nobody has the right to control another person's life or decisions. And we have to do that. We have to understand that, both as men and as women. And so the argument against the argument really should be against gender inequality. That's one of the core things we have to look at, and that's what we had started some time ago. Now, and Arthur mentioned it, there had been some discussions around gender inequality and how to achieve gender equality and so on. And we must recognize that talking about men having the ability to cry, as Ashida said, and having and knowing that they do have the ability, but knowing that it's safe for them to cry and express their quote unquote soft emotions and so on, that is okay to do that. It is also about bringing the humanity in this, and it's about equality, it's about justice, right? We do have to break down stereotypes, but equality, gender equality, is on the one hand about how men and women behave towards each other. It is also about the beliefs that the society has. And when we have a society that still thinks that it is that a woman and her body are objects for the pleasure and the use of men and boys, obviously our society needs to think again and change that belief. If our society, as many other societies in the world, think that it is okay for the unemployment rate among women to be twice as high as the unemployment rate among men, and therefore hold women in economic subjectivity, so that women do not have the wherewithal sometimes to make their own financial decisions. They do not control their own money. We have a problem, and we have to look at how all of these relate to each other. You see, it is about the structure of the society. It is about our society saying to women and men and boys and girls that we are all equal, that all are equal before the law, that all are equal in terms of opportunities and rights and privileges. And we have to cherish that. And as individuals, we learn from that when the society tells that to us. And who, of course, is society? Society involves a whole range of institutions and individuals that makes up the population, right? So whether it's the government, the church, the schools, the family, what happens within the family, all the institutions of society, as well as those of us, all individuals, we have to collectively decide to do something about this. And the more we can go to the core, the root of that problem, that root of gender inequality, where one thinks he has power over her and so on, unless we get there, we will still see these problems emerging from time to time, and even being actually quite consistent in our society. The killings might not be consistent, but the violence, the abuse is very, very, very consistent. I can almost, I can, just at this very moment, I can believe that a woman somewhere in Grenada is being abused right now.
At this very moment,
At
yes.
this very moment, whether it is emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or financial abuse, I'm very certain that it is happening right now.
Now, Ashita, one of the points, and I'm going to bring in Mr. Pay on this as well, and Shauna later, one of the points that you made in a recent posting has to do with apathy, that people see things happening in the national community, and because it does not affect them, then they would not speak about it, or it's happening over there, so it does not impact me. And that also happens when we think about gender-based violence. So, Ashita, I want you to unpack that for me, please.
Okay, Dr. Bob, you're very
Yes.
right with that. Growing up, my mother has always been very open with sharing with me her experience of abuse at the hands of my father, and so I went to New York, my first trip to New York, and this is a very emotional subject, like that particular experience. So sometimes, like, I try not to talk about it so much, but it's relevant here. And when I got there, I met the gentleman and his family, and I first noticed the woman, his common law wife. She walked with a limp. She had one eye, lots of bruises and cuts all over her body. And I'm thinking, but I am not in Grenada, right? I'm in New York, the great America. So I took her out one day so we can chat, and we chatted on the train. And I didn't have to ask her who committed, the acts of violence on her, because my mother already shared what she experienced. And I said to her, but this is New York. Why can't you escape? Why are you still here? Have you called the police? What's going on, And so one day I was in the apartment and I can hear her screaming. I'm in my bedroom. I'm hearing her screaming. So I ran out. She's in the bathroom and he's there. And, he was just beating on her as though she was a punching bag. And I intervened. You know why? It's more than that she was just another woman, but I imagine that I was never present to intervene when the abuse was happening to my mother. So I stepped in and I faced him head on. He's about 6'4", I am 5'11". And I faced him head on, looked him in his eye, and had to put him straight. And he backed back. It was like, for him, it was an absolute shocker, because he never had a woman, his own daughter, stand up to him before. So I say that to say, more of us should always intervene in situations like that. It doesn't have to be like a friend or a family member, but if you know a woman is being abused, you should step in. It's mandatory. And if you figure the force from the abuser might be too much, you get the police involved, a police officer who cares, because sometimes they don't care and they laugh, or they may say, come back another day, or like one of the panelists said, you go and handle it. I think it was Otter. He said, you go and handle it. You don't say that. So you are right. We look at situations and we feel, okay, we are not the ones affected and we do not intervene. But we have to realize the psychological effects later on, or the social effects on that person and on that person's family. We just never know. So, I put myself in this situation there to face him, and I wanted to smack him down, but I felt I didn't have that force. But to stand up to him, that made him, like I told you, he backed back and he walked away. And then I sent her to him, and I went in there and I put him straight, and I said to him, as long as I'm here, you will never put your hands on her, because if you do, I will call the police. And I was a force for him to be reckoned, for him to see as a serious threat, because I wasn't making empty promises. I would not have stayed in this apartment and allow him to continue to abuse her.
Mr. Pear?
Yeah, too often our society just kind of put a blind eye on the whole thing. Incidentally, men talk about that as well. A number of the men folk who have participated in the man-to-man program say to me that they had to confront their father or their stepfather when they were beating up on their mother, or on their mother. Yes. The thing is that sometimes they try not to become the abuser that they have seen, and yet for all they are unable. They don't have the requisite skills, the soft skills, and so to be able to channel their way or make their way to when the issues of challenge within their relationship come. But it's a serious issue. I have had my own personal experiences going to a country, staying in a hotel and hearing screaming next door. And you had to knock on the door and the man would tell you, mind your business, and with a lot of expletives and so, but you had to say, no, I am hearing somebody here. Could I have a conversation with the young lady? And the young lady would come and all crying and everything, and she would say everything is all right. And then you had to actually step in and call the police or call somebody else and have an intervention there. But we have to be our brother's keeper. We have to understand that abuse in any form or fashion is wrong. If somebody else may not be able to help, and you can and you are there, I believe you have a responsibility, if you are afraid to even intervene in a physical way, that you need to call on somebody to be able to do that. We have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our females, and we have to protect our women as it relates to abuse. Now, one of the other thing I want to talk about is psychological abuse. A lot of times in relationships, and again, I know maybe Shauna might be able to elaborate on it more. Abuse does not necessarily start with physical force. It starts sometimes gradually with the emotional abuse, with the putting down, with the name calling, with the embarrassment and the insult. And if persons sometimes fail to recognize that within the relationship as flags to begin to understand the dynamics of actually what's happening, and in situations like that, we need to kind of put our ears up and make moves to change that kind of narrative.
This is a very heavy conversation this morning, but as one of the commenters here, Elizabeth Miles, is saying, this is a topic that is still very hard to talk about after 23 years. And I think media has a responsibility, and I'm going to talk to media here, my media colleagues here in Grenada and in the Caribbean. I think we do not do justice to the way that we report on these issues. It tends to be sensationalized. We tend to focus on the salacious nature of these things as if we're reading some kind of Mills and Boon's novel, right? When we ought to be elevating, and I feel very strongly about this as someone who teaches journalism, as someone whose life's work is ensuring that a standard of journalism is maintained. And so sometimes it frustrates me that we do not report on these issues in a manner that reflects the nuance of this situation. So sorry for getting on a soapbox, but I just wanted to make that point.
But just let me say that whilst this is true and cannot be excused, we also have to understand that the journalists and the police officers and so are products of our society. They are products of a society that told them, just as it did the man and just as it did the woman, that violence is allowed, that a man has the right to use violence to control his woman. And we have to understand where they're coming from through that lens. But what we need to do, and what we are doing now in programs like these and through the Spotlight Initiative, is to share with all of us all the men and women and boys and girls, and that wherever you are, whether you're a police officer, social worker, journalist, that a man does not have the right to control a woman. She does not belong to him. We even have to question traditions like that which we hear sometimes said, who gives this woman? I mean, nobody has the right to give a woman to anything or to anyone. She has the right to choose whether to be in a relationship, not for somebody else to give her away, right? And we see that the issue of dominance and control plays out and it lasts a very long time. I just want to go right back to what the commenter said about 23 years. Um, there are women who have experienced intimate partner violence and suffered it for years and years and years without taking any action. And we remember what Ashida said about her personal experience. And thanks for sharing, Ashida. It's very brave to share so that we can all learn that we're not alone. When it happens, it's like a blindsiding, and we don't believe it for some of us, but for some we believe, but we excuse it because of all the other things that society has wrapped up in a package for us, or the what that offender has wrapped up for us through the grooming and other things that's happened. In the study, the Women's Health and Life Experience Survey, the study shows that um, women did not seek help for several reasons. One of them is that they were embarrassed, ashamed, or afraid that they will not be believed or that they would be blamed. And victim blaming, as you said, Dr. Bob, was something very uh, still very present, right? Where we are trying to find out what she did wrong.
Mhm.
And that is one of the reasons women in the study said they did not report, they did not seek help because they were afraid that they would be blamed or that they would not be believed. Women also said that the abuse was considered normal or it wasn't serious. They knew it was abuse, but they thought it was, oh, normal, or whatever he did was kind of normal, not too bad. I could handle it. There was also fear or threats of more violence. She was afraid because he might have threatened her further that if she did whatever, if she reports it, then things will get worse. She was afraid, or she believed that she will not be helped, or that she knew other women who had reported and were not helped. And therefore, that it was like, what's the point of making a report if I will not be helped?
Mhm.
She was also afraid that it would end the relationship. We link that to a saying or beliefs or some kind of myths we have that say that once a woman is in a relationship, she has to keep that relationship or else she will be considered a slut.
Mhm.
She has to ensure that she does not have any conversation with another man ever in life again because she has had one relationship, good or bad. And if she ends that relationship, moves to another one, or if she dates more than one person at the same time, she is considered vile and evil and so on. I am so sorry for that alarm
That is
sound.
okay. That is okay. Go
It's
ahead.
done.
Yes. Yes.
And then just two last things.
Mhm.
Women are also afraid that it would bring reporting, exposing would bring bad name to the family, and that she is at risk of losing the children if they have children. And these were reasons given by in the survey, well, as a result of the survey, why women were not reporting. I'm here, and we're all here, I'm sure, in this space here, telling women and girls, reach out. Do not, these things, as Shauna said earlier, brave people, strong people seek help. Be strong enough to seek help. We know that you are in a situation which is frightening, and You know, sometimes we feel it's spiraling out of our control, but seek help. Seek help until, and sometimes the first person you reach out to does not help,
Mhm.
but keep going.
Mhm.
As a society, we need to stop blaming victims and hold the offenders accountable. Let the offenders know that what they're doing wrong. The question should not be what is the woman doing wrong, but what is the offender doing wrong? Why is it that this offender is so bold to think that he could do something like this and get away with it? And by something like this, I don't mean murder. It doesn't have to get there. By something like this, I mean one slap. By something like this that he should not feel he has the authority to get away from with is like grabbing her phone, scrolling through it to see who she spoke to, smash it on her face or smash it on the wall. Things like that should not be tolerated. And as a society, we have to remind women and girls, and those men and boys who are in situations of violence as well, that these cannot be accepted, and that therefore they should not be committed, so that the offender or potential offenders will learn early that these things should not be committed, because our society will not tolerate it, and our society will stand with the victims, whether they are women and girls or men and boys. That society will stand with the victims to hold the offender accountable.
Accountability is key. Let us come up for air, and we will come back. We want to get to some solutions and looking forward and moving forward to ways in which we can reduce these instances of gender based violence in Grenada. Stand by, folks. We'll be right back.
Since losing that seat, what have you been up to?
Now, Mr. Attorney General, this particular provision sounds unconstitutional. But why were there not consultations before moving forward with the proposals? Did they say what will happen when you guys get to St. Vincent? Because there are pressing socio-economic issues that I would want to address with you.
In the hyper-information age of social media, the Bubb Report knows there is more to the story. We have questions and demand answers. We strive to hold the powerful accountable and tell an unbiased, contextual story. You know what happened. We let you know why it happened. There is always more to the story. The Bubb Report, streaming every Sunday at 11 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube.
All right, welcome back, folks. We're almost out of time. We have 10 more minutes here, and I want to give the panel an opportunity to, walk us through to some solutions here. And I want to begin with you, Ms. Ashida, and I want you to just react to the conversation we've been having here this morning as well.
Okay, thank you. I think the conversation, the dialogue, the narrative all have to continue. You see, we are a very reactive society, the Grenadian society I'm referring to. So something happens and then we react. So I'm saying we need to be more proactive. And one of the ways in which we can be proactive is to keep the dialogue constant and alive. So, what I'm trying to do now is to form a group so we can have an online social media presence where we try to create, the aim really is to create a safe platform for victims and survivors of gender-based violence as well as domestic violence. They can relate, share their stories, because oftentimes people have an experience and we are compelled as victims or survivors to put those experiences below the carpet simply because we do not want to be labeled or branded. And so I want to change that. And one of the ways I think I can do that together with a group of, I think it's like 7 of us women, is to create this Facebook platform. One to, like I said, to create a platform, a safe platform for people to share their experiences. And another is for us, so I'm going to be speaking with Miss McQueen and Shauna, so they can help guide, because they are experts in their respective fields. So they can guide us, because we just will not have all the answers, right? So that's one of the things I am working on as we speak. In terms of solutions, you see, we know if we have an emergency related to crime or violence, we can call 911. We need to know whether or not there is a hotline. So a woman, as Miss McQueen said, a woman just might be going through an abusive relationship right now. Who can she call? Can, besides calling 911, do we have a hotline where victims can reach out so that they can be guided? You see, if a man is next to you and he keeps slapping you and you say, oh, I'm going to call the police, and just the word police freaks him out and he gives you a blow, right? Can we replace that with like a hotline where she's on the phone talking to another woman, he doesn't know, but that woman or a man can guide her through, guide her out of the situation? Do we have that? I'm not sure. If we do not, then I think something like that is very imperative as a form of solution. And I have a question.
Yes, go ahead. I believe we have the Special Victims Unit, but I do not know that there's a hotline built into that. Ms. McQueen, do you know that there's a specific hotline built into the Special Victims Unit?
There are different places where support can be given. The Special Victims Unit is an arm of the police force, and there is a hotline 400. However, in the last report I had, there was a bit of a challenge from some cell phone numbers. So this is being rectified, I was told. The direct number for the SVU, the Special Victims Unit, is 440 4739. 440 4739. There are other places as well. The Ministry of Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment has a unit called the Gender-Based Violence Unit. And the number for the GBVU, well, the ministry in general, is 440 2269. A cell number is also being prepared to have it available so persons can call directly to the unit and to be available more hours than the office is normally open for. The Legal Aid Counseling Clinic also provides support and as a partner on this, and the number is 440 3788. 440-3788 is Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic. So these are numbers that are there right now. Oh, thank you. I see the message there, Nicole Nevapit. Yes, 417-6167.
And that's for which organization? Which unit?
That's a gender-based violence unit, yes.
In the Ministry of Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment. So that is the number which I knew they were working on. So thank you so much. It is now up and ready as a cell phone number that takes WhatsApp as well. So clients can contact the GBVU at any time to receive support. So the support is available. The Spotlight Initiative, which is the program which I am coordinating right now, is a global partnership, and our job, our duty, what we're doing is helping to strengthen the services that are available. So that's one of the things we're doing.
And how can one join? Can someone volunteer to be a part of the Spotlight Initiative?
Yes, through civil society organizations primarily, because civil society organizations, NGOs, are invited from time to time to submit proposals to different UN organizations. It might be UN Women or PAHO or UNICEF or UNDP. These are the 4 UN organizations that are working with the Spotlight Initiative in Grenada. They issue calls for proposals. And if you have an NGO, a group, and so on, you can volunteers can submit proposals to seek funding and seek to support in different ways. The program in general can also receive other volunteers, but the main route is through civil society organizations. Yes.
Okay. I have a question.
Just one other thing I just want to say, sorry, yes, go ahead, Ashida.
No, the question is really for Mr. Pierre, just before I leave. Can a man, right, who has abusive or violent tendencies, can he check himself into the man-to-man program, or are the recruits selected only by the courts?
No, and that's a very good question, because a couple of observations I've made from both yourself and Ms. McQueen that I want to address. Yes, a lot of men actually have checked themselves in. Okay, they realize that the relationship that they were in drove them to violence, not just maybe not physical, but psychological and so forth. And they actually came to the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic and said, look, I need to be involved in a program that could help me. So they were involved and they attended under the stipulations of the program, 16 weeks. You're not allowed to miss any of the sessions unless you're only allowed, to miss two sessions, but it can't be back to back. And you had to stay there. A report was given and so forth. So men actually have come forward. Now, one of the thing I want to just comment on when we speak, because we advise men that you could go to the Special Victims Unit, you can go to the Ministry of Social Development, the Domestic Violence Unit. They're saying that, look, these units are not for men, okay? And a lot of men want to do the right thing. They want to do the right thing, but they just don't have the support. Or they may not come forward to support because it is led by a woman. Okay, they want to be able to talk to men on very said issues. The thing is that sometimes it's very difficult to get men bonding together, and again, it has a lot to do with how we were socialized. One of the solutions that I really would want to see is really and truly dealing with the issue of gender-based violence at our school. Now, I must congratulate the Ministry of Education that recently launched a values education program. Again, I know that the Spotlight program has been focusing on the issues of gender-based violence, but we need to have a component that really and truly deals with males and from an early age. Now, I have seen students in the primary and secondary level beating up on girls and so on. You want to know where that come from, and when you investigate and you peel back some of the layers, you realize again it comes from the home. It is generated from the home. It's what they see being modeled at home. So we have to create opportunities where men could really, just as Ashida said, just an opportunity to sit down and talk about some of the issues that they are actually going through. And to get a listening ear. We have from the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic coming out of the man-to-man program, we have tried to, and men have said, look, we want something like a support group where, every now and again we could sit down and we could meet, we could, put a pot of food on, get a couple of drinks, and really sit down and talk about some of the issues affecting men in a relationship. However, when we try to get that done, men just don't attend. So we need avenues, not just to deal with the issues of victims, but to deal with potential perpetrators of domestic violence.
Ms. McQueen, you wanted to your trend of thought there. We interrupted it, but you wanted to add something else.
That's fine. That's fine. I had stopped for to have others go ahead.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly reply to Arthur to say that the Grenada Spotlight Initiative is supporting the spaces for discussions with men and boys about health, about changing the toxic masculinities, and to improve the way in which men and boys understand what it means to be a man. And these are some specific examples. We are supporting a community model for the Partnership for Peace program with the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic. We are also supporting the Ministry of Social Development in a series that they refer to as Man Box, a series of programs from boys to men with conversations with young men around the island. We are also supporting the introduction of the Foundations program in Grenada, which is a prevention program for young men and young women. We are supporting laws and services that would help to hold offenders accountable. We are also supporting the development of a policy for victims and survivors so that the standards of care, and we've supported also the development of a standard operating procedures. And together, we believe that the standard of care and standard of response to victims and survivors should improve tremendously with some other support that's being provided to the agencies that provide the support. We are also looking for further community education, public education campaigns. We are supporting different entities, government and civil society, to also find and create spaces for young women and girls, just like the young men and boys are being provided for. We are also encouraging that spaces be provided for young women and girls to also discuss how to identify controlling behaviors, how to identify abuse in their lives and what to do about it, how to empower ourselves as women and girls so that we can make decisions in our own best interests and so on. So the Spotlight Initiative is offering a range of opportunities for Grenada, and we are very grateful to the European Union and the United Nations, because that partnership is providing an investment that is allowing us in Grenada to really look at this issue from several perspectives and try to create a comprehensive solution. And we're hoping that we as Grenadians, that we utilize this investment in ways that would make lasting change in our society. We're really hoping that it will not be about tick this box, money spent, problem continues. We can't have that happening.
It has to
With
be an
this
ongoing,
project,
yes.
with this project, it has to be social change, improved services, reduction in the number of cases. People in Grenada, both men and women, understanding the need for equality and justice and owning self and not others. So that is the thrust of the Spotlight Initiative, and we're really hoping for everybody's support on this.
Just one comment. Just one
Yes,
comment.
Mr.
I'm
Yes, Mr.
happy.
Clay.
I'm happy that, and well, I'm part of the Spotlight, so I'm aware of it. But I really hope that we could get some models as men being part of that, led by men, to address some of the issues related to men.
Correct. I think male mentorship is critical. I can
That's right.
speak
That's
about just the men that I had in my life as mentors going back to Grenada. And I want to shout out this time the Grenada Police Welfare Association for. I had some mentors in law enforcement. Now, law enforcement gets a bad rap naturally in Grenada, but I want to publicly thank the Police Welfare Association in Grenada for paying my tuition to attend the T.A. Marshall Community College because my parents could not afford it. And Karabi Belfon, retired inspector, he was a mentor in my life, and I'm grateful for persons like him. So men have a critical role to play. But Shauna, I want to bring you in to get some final comments from you as we close today's program. Just need to unmute there, Shauna. All right, we can't seem to hear you, Shauna. But panel, let me thank all of you. This was a very important discussion this morning, and I want to thank all of you for agreeing to appear. It is a conversation that needs to continue to happen. And here on the Bubb Report, we will be providing the enabling environment and the platform to continue to bring visibility to this issue, which is a perennial issue that is entrenched into the culture of Grenada. So let me thank all of you again. And on behalf of the producers, my producers on the ground in Grenada, I'm not on the ground in Grenada to have a sense as to what's happening on an everyday. So I want to thank them, especially for helping me to put this program together. Viewers and listeners, thank you for your great comments. Elizabeth, thank you. Thank you for the platform today. Thank you to my sister Elaine. She's saying for inviting us to your family to be part of this discussion. Thank you, Dr. Bubb, for allowing us space to share our stories. Thank you all and have a blessed Sunday and a great week ahead. Robert Ortiz is saying, I logged on to the tail end of the show, but I will surely be watching from the beginning. Thanks for your service, for hosting these kinds of shows, and for bringing awareness to this subject. As a man that lost his mother to domestic violence, this show means a lot to me. Thank you. So, folks, thanks again. Panel, don't go away. I want to ensure that all of you can get connected with phone numbers and different things. And you guys have a pleasant week. Bye-bye.